I was 5 years old the first time that I heard a disembodied voice that I remember. My father and I were driving down a deserted road, and we were approaching an intersection of the highway, but there was no one there, no traffic. And I heard a voice, "Put your seatbelt on, put your seatbelt on now." And back then, it was 1969, we had to pull the seatbelts from underneath the seat. Like we never used them. They were just there. And so we pulled them up. And for some reason, my father actually listened. Like he took what I said seriously. I don't know why. And we put our seatbelts on. And then he was driving extra cautious. There were no cars coming or going. It's a 2-lane, wooded on both sides, but at an intersection, it crossed the Staten Island Expressway. And right before we got there, a car barreled off the exit going more than 100 miles an hour. And had we not slowed down and put our seatbelts on, I don't think either of us would have survived that. And it's funny because we never discussed it. And different things like this have happened in my life where, it was, it just happened. I mean, they listened, he listened, and then it was never discussed. Like, how did you hear that? What made you do that? And nothing. So I just never thought much about, I just thought everybody could do what I do. It was not treated like it was abnormal. It wasn't treated like anything. So the next time maybe around this age too, maybe a little bit older, my mother and I and my sister and my grandmother were traveling up to New Hampshire to see my Aunt Debbie and her family. And my mom was driving and I was sitting in the front seat because I always got car sick. And my grandmother was sitting with my sister in the back. And my mom made a wrong turn on the 95. I guess she stayed on 95 and she's supposed to get off. And I don't know, but I do remember that we ended up in Rhode Island. And, I'm like 5-6 years old, never been there before. And she's, of course, my mom's really stressed trying to figure out and get back to where she's supposed to be. And I see this intersection. I said, "Mom, we're going to come up and there's going to be a stone church on the corner." And I just start, describing like the whole little town that we were going to enter. And sure enough, that's what it was. I mean, she was so stressed out. I mean, I don't even think she heard me. But again, nothing was said. And I was freaked. At that point, I was freaked out. Like, how did I know that? How did I see that when I never have been here before? I don't even think anybody in my family had ever been there before. And, so things like this, have happened my whole life. And I think for a lot of us, these things happen and then it's just not acknowledged, or we're afraid to speak about it because it might seem like it's weird. And then our belief system doesn't have a space for it. And so I'm sharing these things because a lot of people are coming into this like more awakening, but you've always been awake. There's just parts of you that you've shut off. You were born a spirit or energy. I think we're all energy in a quantum physics sort of way. This is, energy, and we all have it. And it's just whether or not you choose to encourage it, acknowledge it, and if you have a space in your brain to hold it as something that's normal. I've because I could not, religion was not something that I could be comfortable with. My whole life I was an atheist, and I feel more comfortable with frequencies and energy than saying God or spirit or things like that. And because I see the energy, I see, and it could be God. I'm not saying it's not, but it's just for me, I'm more comfortable with the science part of it. Even though I'm very spiritual, I'm not religious. So when I think about my journey, I've shied away from these things, especially the religious part. And I think, when I was 9, my mom had a nervous breakdown, her first one. And it was very religious that God was coming, the world was over, and it was right before Easter. And I just remember, you think the Easter Bunny will come before the world ends? Like, I really, and I honestly thought her nervous was broken and she was going to come home in a cast. Like, I really had no clue what was going on. But a lot of her stuff was very, very religious. And then when I go visit her, I met two different Jesuses. And even at 9 years old, I was like, if Jesus ever came back, they probably put him on a ward like this, thinking all the things he thought. And so I think it's always been like a warped perspective, and how much religion can manipulate the direct connection that people could have with Source. And so I wanted to start to share some of these things. Like, your journey and your awakening started when you were born. And now it's you just, time to, if you wish to, reclaim some of what you already know and then find your truth, what you believe. What is the truth for you spiritually? That's not what someone else believes, because we all have that. I feel the universe was created by a consciousness. The universe isn't Source. What created the universe and everything in it is the creator, whatever that is. Could have been a thought, a fart, I don't know. But all I know is that, for how I see things, it's when people say the universe is just part of the creation, part of the energy, the atomic, subatomic energy that we all have. Everything vibrates at a frequency. And I do use angels and stuff in my practice, because that vibration and frequency helps me. If I identify it as Archangel Raphael, who is the healer angel, that helps me dial into that frequency and that energy to help someone, and to put that energy and help them embrace that energy to help their healing. So, I really have been thinking a lot about this recently, and I wanted to share what my truth is now, because it evolves always. It's like, I can't remember that artist, with the staircase, it's a drawing, a line drawing. Oh, my brain is just shot, but it's the never-ending staircase. You can start, with your eyes and go down, and then all of a sudden you're at the top again. And I think that's how healing and beliefs, we come to a new truth, and then it shifts us. And then everything else from that point looks a little different. And then we have to process that. And then from that point, we start to incorporate new beliefs based on what we've experienced and know, and what our new truth is. And it doesn't mean that it wasn't truthful for you back, in the day when you believe certain things. It's just, it's evolution of thought, evolution of being. And so I just wanted to start to share these things in a more honest and authentic way. And my struggle, I've been struggling the last couple of weeks. The energy, the frequencies, what I'm hearing, it's very, very high. And there's a lot of energy going on. And I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just, and it's also me processing a lot of stuff that I've survived, that I've made peace with, but there were still some, I think they were all separate pieces. And so now it's been that I'm stitching these all things, them all together, because it is who I am, who I was, but it's not who I am now. But I think connecting them all together and keeping them, when I kept them separate, you really can't incorporate them when they're in different pieces. So when you bring it all together, I think there's like that final processing of the whatever trauma, whatever it is, that allows you to incorporate it and then move on from it. So anyway, I wish everybody a happy weekend. Have a good Friday, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.